Vice Media is a Canadian-American digital media and broadcasting company, originating from the Montreal-based Vice magazine co-founded by Shane Smith, Gavin, McInnes and Suroosh Alvi. Vice expanded primarily into youth and young adult-focused digital media, including online content verticals and related web series. The news division Vice News, a film production studio, and a record label among other properties. In February 2016, Vice Media launched a cable television network in Canada and the United States known as Viceland, a millennial-targeted network which draws upon the resources of the lifestyle-oriented verticals of Vice. Originally based in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, Vice relocated to New York City in 2001. In 2014, Vice Media was the subject of a 10%, $200 million equity investment by U.S. broadcasting company A&E Networks, a joint venture of the Walt Disney Company and Hearst Corporation. Disney made a second 10%, $200 million investment in 2015. History. Founded by Shane Smith, Suroosh Alvi and Gavin McInnes, a magazine named Voice of Montreal was launched in October 1994 in Montreal, Quebec, Canada with government funding to cover music, trends and drug culture or not covered in print. They changed the name to Vice in 1996, and as the magazine became increasingly popular, the company found it difficult to scale their operations while based in Canada. As a result, Vice moved to New York City in 1999, then to Williamsburg, Brooklyn in 2001. The magazine continued to gain attention and readership due to its content, commentary, and contributions from the likes of Terry Richardson, Ryan McGinley and others. The magazine then rapidly expanded internationally, with Andrew Creighton and Andy Capper co-founding the UK division of Vice. The magazine then expanded further into all 5 continents. In 2006, on the advice of creative director Spike Jonze, Vice began expanding into digital video, launching VBS TV, a new video service as a joint venture with MTV Networks. VBS gained a fanbase with shows like The Vice Guide to Travel, Epically Lated, and Toxic. The documentaries on the channel featured unusual subjects, and were hosted by young people working at Vice Media, often the founders themselves. In 2006, co-founder Gavin McInnes left Vice Media due to creative differences with the company, and co-founded an advertising agency, where he has since been terminated for having controversial opinions on transgender issues. In 2007, Vice Media began aggressively expanding its digital video operation, launching new channels, such as Motherboard, Noisy, and the Creators Project, an arts technology site founded in partnership with Intel. Vice Media later would launch sites around electronic music, culture, global news, food and sports. Additionally, Vice Media launched Virtue Worldwide, a creative services agency, to expand the capabilities for work around the platforms. In 2012, Vice Media continued to expand its coverage focused around news and current events. In mid-August 2013, Rupert Murdoch's 21st Century Fox invested $70 million in Vice Media, resulting in a 5% stake. Following the announcement, Smith explained, "We have set ourselves up to build a global platform, but we have maintained control." In 2013, Vice Media premiered a new 30-minute news program for HBO titled Vice, executive produced by Bill Maher. In 2014, the second season of the show won a Creative Arts Emmy Award for Outstanding Informational Series, a special in the 66th Primetime Creative Arts Emmy Awards. In 2014, Vice Media launched its news channel, Vice News, which almost immediately gained global attention for its coverage of protests and conflict in Ukraine and Venezuela. As of October 2014, the leader of BBC's news desk claimed the organization was playing catch-up to Vice News. Vice Media has routinely advocated for their immersionist brand of journalism in the pursuit of more authentic and interesting stories. The founders and editors have regularly garnered controversy from the likes of the New York Times' David E. Carr, who bristled in an exchange with Shane Smith in the 2011 documentary Page One Inside the New York Times. On July 2, 2014, Vice Media announced that it would be relocating into a warehouse space in Williamsburg formerly occupied by music venues 285 Kent, Death by Audio, and Glasslands. Vice spent $20 million to renovate the 60,000-square-foot building as part of an 8-year lease, facilitating the establishment of new production facilities with full broadcast capabilities, and received an offer of $6.5 million in tax credits from New York State's Empire State Development. In June 2014, it was reported that Time Warner was negotiating to acquire a minority stake in Vice Media. Among the company's plans were to give Vice Media control over the programming of HLN, a spin-off network of CNN which had recently struggled in its attempts to refocus itself as a younger skewing, social media-oriented news service. However, the deal fell through as the companies were unable to agree on a proper valuation, and Vice Media chose to partner with A&E Networks for a 10% minority stake. A&E's co-owner Disney made a second investment of $200 million. On October 30, 2014, Vice Media announced a CDN $100 million joint venture with Rogers Communications to facilitate the construction of production facilities in Toronto, as well as the introduction of a Vice-branded television network and digital properties in Canada in 2015. Rogers CEO Guy Lawrence described the proposed studio as a powerhouse for Canadian digital content focused on 18 to 34-year-olds that will be exciting and provocative. The content of the partnership will be aimed primarily toward digital platforms. In November 2014, Vice Media announced that Elisa Mastromonaco, who formerly worked in the Obama administration, would come on board as the company's chief operating officer in January 2015, and that James Schwab, who had previously advised Vice and DreamWorks on media deals, would be joining as co-president. In November 2015, Vice and A&E Networks announced Viceland, a then-upcoming cable network that would feature Vice-produced content. In March 2016, Vice acquired controlling stake in UK television and film production company Pulse Films Properties. Vice magazine. Vice is a print magazine and website focused on arts, culture, and news topics. Founded in 1994 in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, the magazine later expanded into Vice Media, which consists of divisions including the magazine and website, a film production company, a record label, and a publishing imprint. As of February 2015, the magazine's chief creative officer is Eddie Moretti. Andrew Creighton is president. The editor-in-chief is Ellis Jones, and Alex Miller is the global head of content. As of October 2014, 29 Vice bureaus exist on every continent except Africa and Antarctica. The monthly publication is frequently focused on a single theme. Vice News. Vice News is the name of Vice Media's current affairs brand, consisting primarily of documentaries. It was created in December 2013 as a division of Vice Media, Inc. Vice News promotes itself on its coverage of events that may not be as well covered by other news sources. Vice News creates content daily, distributing written articles and video on its website and YouTube channel. The Viceland. Viceland is a cable television network operated by Vice in partnership with A&E Networks in the US and Rogers Media in Canada, primarily featuring documentary-style programs targeted toward millennials. Vice Books. Vice Media, through its magazine Vice, has published the collections The Do's and Don'ts book and The Vice Guide to Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll. In 2008, the photograph compilation The Vice Photo Book was released and featured published works from previous editions of the magazine. Vice Music. Vice Records of Vice Music, founded in 2002, has released albums and singles by the following artists through various major label distributors. Digital channels. Launch refers to year where the first Vice-produced video was released on the respective YouTube channels. In 2014, Vice Media took over the YouTube-funded channel The NOC, which was launched in 2012. VBS TV in 2006, on the advice from the company's creative director Spike Jonze. Vice began expanding into digital video, launching VBS TV, a new video-focused web-only video channel. VBS immediately gained a fan base with shows like The Vice Guide to Travel, Epically Latted, and Toxic. The immersive documentaries on the channel featured unusual subjects, and were hosted by young people working at Vice, often by the founders themselves. VBS TV began as a deal between Viacom and MTV Networks and Logo Group. In March 2007, the VBS TV network was formed. MTV funded its formation and Vice magazine would supply the content. The videos and documentaries, such as The Vice Guide to Travel, are accessible on the internet-based Vice channel. In 2010, VBS TV was folded into a new Viacom, which incorporated the video library alongside features from the magazine and digital editorial content. Vice Films. On December 8, 2014, 20th Century Fox and Vice Media launched Vice Films to finance, produce, distribute, market, and acquire narrative films. Vice Films released the feature-length documentary Heavy Metal in Baghdad in 2008, which follows the thrash metal band Akrassikada in Iraq. The New York Times praised the production and reporting, calling it a splendid feat of DIY reportage, both a stirring testament to the plight of cultural expression in Baghdad and a striking report on the refugee scene in Syria. This rock doc, like no other, electrifies its genre and redefines headbanging as an act of hardcore courage. Vice Films had its first theatrical release, White Lightning, in 2009, and a documentary on professional bull riders, entitled The Ride, in 2010. Swansea was featured in a television documentary, Swansea Love Story, as part of the Rule Britannia series on VBS TV. The episode covers a heroin epidemic in the UK. Reincarnated, a documentary film on Snoop Dogg's transformation into reggae artist and Rastafari Snoop Lion, was released in 2013. Lil Bob and Amp Friends, a feature documentary about meme cats such as Grumpy Cat, premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival on April 18, 2013 and won the Tribeca Online Festival Best Feature Film. In 2014, Vice produced and distributed All This Mayhem Follows the Rise and Fall of renowned skateboarders Ben Pappas and Taz Pappas. Fishing Without Nets. Vice Film's first narrative feature won Best Director for Cutter-Houdin at the 2014 Sundance Film Festival. The film was released online in partnership with 20th Century Fox in October 2014. The Vice Guide to Everything. The MTV series The Vice Guide to Everything premiered in December 2010 and features Vice films, as well as new material. Vice HBO series. In 2013, HBO aired the first 10-episode season of a half-hour news magazine known as Vice, with Bill Maher as executive producer. The initial season saw international coverage for the season 1 finale that had Vice play an exhibition basketball game in North Korea with Dennis Rodman and the Harlem Globetrotters. The show was renewed for a second season, which aired in 2014 and won an Emmy Award for Outstanding Informational Series or Special. The show was picked up for 2 more 14-episode seasons by HBO in May 2014, which will air in 2015 and 2016. Advertising with Vice. Despite its broad coverage of topics, Vice has continued to attract advertisers. In comparison to the Big Four news corporations who self-censor as they are scared of losing Budweiser, whoever, as their advertisers. Advertising is an important component of Vice's business, which is targeted at millennials who are weary of traditional online ads, and try their best to ignore them. Going back to the time of its print magazine, Vice has carried out in-house advertising. Vice has been selective as to whose advertising it would carry, aligning it with the interests of its target audience. Vice has worked closely with advertisers to create ads for them, thus receiving revenue from both the production of the ad and its placement within the magazine. Vice has its own advertising agency that blurs the line between editorial and sponsorship. This type of advertising is called native advertising, since it is merged with the content. Co-founder Alvi has also said that Vice has had franchises that were underwritten by sponsors. That's our goal, to get a lot of our news franchises and stories and reports sponsored by advertisers. It's kind of the way news used to be in the 50s, brought to you by Gillette or whatever it was. We love that model. Some of the brands that Vice has worked with are Google, Levi Strauss and Amco, and Intel. However, some advertisers have been controversial. Vice Media has been condemned as highly irresponsible by the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids and other anti-smoking groups, as Edition Worldwide, a subsidiary of Vice UK, produces promotional content for tobacco giant Philip Morris International. This was seen as especially unethical due to the young audience which Vice News usually attracts. Lack of union recognition. In February 2016, staff members at Vice UK called for unionisation with an officially recognised trade union by the National Union of Journalists. Staff members said this was following the steps of Vice US in order to allow the staff to share in the success of the company, to strengthen job security by Vice providing better contracts, to address pay issues, so everyone gets a fair deal, including freelancers, and enhance career progression opportunities. This proposition was rejected by Vice UK. The company refused to recognise the National Union of Journalists but instead said that they were free to set up an internal staff council. Vice Chief Executive Matt Alec claimed the NUJ had displayed a concerning lack of transparency from them about who they are purporting to represent here, not being able to provide us with any numbers to demonstrate the degree of support they have in this office, adding that the NUJ are used to working with old print media businesses and structures. They are not used to innovative digital workplaces like this, where the culture has always been to encourage flexibility and allow people work across different departments. The rejection is in contrast to the US, where journalists working for the digital digital operations of Vice, Gawker and The Guardian have all won union recognition. In response, Michelle Stanistreet said, "The accusation that the NUJ has not been transparent in its discussions with Vice management is simply untrue. It's a shame that the company has proven so resistant to listening to its own staff and facilitating what they want, a collective voice at work. That the NUJ and its 30,000 members, including those at Vice, are not used to the reality of a digital workforce is laughable and shows it's the company who are out of date with 21st century trade unions, rejecting calls for union recognition from their own journalists and then trying to fob them off with a Rupert Murdoch-style staff association is a pretty old-fashioned union-busting buzz that misses the point. NUJ officials and reps at Vice will continue with the push for recognition, and if the company wants that to be gained through the law forcing their hand rather than through sensible engagement with the staff, so be it. Acquisitions and investments. Carrot Creative. Vice acquired the Brooklyn-based digital agency, Carrot Creative, in December 2013. The deal was reported to be worth $15 to $20 million in stock and cash. Old Blue Last Pub. Vice runs a pub and music venue in Shoreditch, East London named the Old Blue Last, in which a live music program entitled Live at the Old Blue Last is filmed. After Vice bought the Old Blue Last in 2004, it underwent a series of improvements, with most taking place in 2010. Bands who have played at the venue include Arctic Monkeys, No Island, Amy Winehouse, Chromeo, Black Lips, and Florence plus the Machine. ID Magazine. Vice integrated with the British fashion magazine ID in December 2012, with Vice President Andrew Creighton calling it one of the only fashion publications in the world we actually respect. VRSE Farm. In 2015, Vice announced it invested an undisclosed sum in VRSE Farm, a virtual reality company founded by acclaimed director Chris Milk. The announcement came alongside a debut VR experience at the Sundance Festival, a virtual reality journalism broadcast made in partnership with Spike Jonze and Vice News. Pulse Films. In March 2016, it acquired controlling stake in UK television and film production company Pulse Films to bolster its original programming efforts. Global expansion. Vice announced expansion to 50-plus countries at Cannes Lions in June 2016, including a partnership with the Times of India Group and new channels in Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand and Africa. Garage Magazine. The same year, in July, it acquired UK magazine Garage to expand its foothold in the youth market and plans to launch a television network focused on art, fashion and literature. Office expansion in Brooklyn. In July 2014, Vice Media announced it would be moving its headquarters to a new building in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, where the New York office had been since 1999. According to an article in the Wall Street Journal, the move would allow them to double the current office size and hire about 500 new employees. Following this announcement, the two music venues occupying the building, Glasslands Gallery and Death by Audio, soon announced the news they would be closing. Following the announcement from Glasslands management in October 2014 that the arts venue would close at the end of 2014, thereby making it the third Williamsburg music space to close through Vice Media's expansion, alongside 285 Kent and Death by Audio. Big Shot magazine claimed that the Brooklyn music community had received a proverbial kick in the groin after a series of articles covering the venue's eviction. Brooklyn Vegan reported on the deals that led to Vice Media moving into the new office, including terms buying out tenants and covering past overdue rent. that contradicted some press around the renovation of the building and Vice Media's dealings with the current tenants. Regardless, as the article puts it, the concept of Vice versus DIY in Williamsburg is officially a thing.